Tori's from the UK and she is travelling here in Australia for 5 months. 5 months. Doing a bit of backpacking and sightseeing and a bit of working, a bit of baristering. Is baristering a word?
Hostel hopping.
Hostel hopping. Yeah. And Tori is the daughter of a good friend of mine, good friends, I should say, Leslie and Dan. So we've known each other, we met online a long time ago through all the Thermomix cooking world, and then met in person a few times, and you guys have been up to visit us before. But Tori has been traveling around and eating well because she is a nutritional therapist. Just finished her studies in nutritional therapy and having a holiday before she gets started working. And it's so funny because my kids and their friends are asking her so many questions and we're laughing because they're having lots of poo chats. She's like, I don't want to be remembered as the girl who always talked about poop and enemas. She might take over Elise's job. Elise is the one that always talks about that. So we've been having lots of good chats. But one of the things that I was really interested in was how Tori has been coping with traveling and eating well, and also being on a budget.
Yeah.
And so she's told me a few of the things she's been making in the hostels and snacking on as she travels. And I thought this would be a really good podcast. Because I'm sure some of you are going to go traveling on the Christmas holidays. Maybe you're young and off backpacking, or maybe you're a family that is going traveling in a caravan, or maybe you are just hopping on a plane and going overseas. Lucky you. So whatever you're doing, I know that when you're out and about, it can be hard to find good food, especially if you're gluten-free or on some kind of special diet. And I've been there. Tori's there right now. So hopefully we have lots of tips to share with you, and we've got some questions to answer from listeners as well. So first of all, Tori, I should stop talking and let you talk for a bit. Do you want to tell us your thought process when you started to prepare for traveling, how you prepared for the food side of things?
That's interesting. Well, actually, so things were very sort of last minute, and I wasn't expecting to go traveling so I'm traveling up the East Coast, and I wasn't expecting to sort of go so fast. So I didn't really have any time to make anything. And it was only the day before that I actually picked up some things. I was like, right, I'm gonna need this when I travel. And they don't really have any Aldis up here either.
No Aldis.
I was like, okay, I'll get a few things because obviously Aldi's really cheap. And I've done a little bit of traveling in the UK before, so I sort of prepared myself for this bigger trip with how I would cope in other hostels. So
that's right, you did some practice hostel trips.
Yeah. So a couple of things I just sort of picked up on as I was traveling through, and I was like, okay, I need that, or this would have been better, because when you're staying at hostels, if you don't bring your own stuff, they have stuff there, but it's not very good quality, and I like better salt than table salt.
Yes.
I remember there was one time I was doing some eggs, and I was like, I don't have any oil and I don't have any salt, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to bring that with me. So I had to give in, and I think I did some poached eggs instead, but I had to use nasty salt. But yeah, so they were just things that I gradually learned, and not that I brought some things from the UK, but I thought I can get those things here.
So maybe you could show us your must-haves for when you're traveling. Yeah. So she's only got a backpack and maybe another smaller backpack.
Yeah, so I've got a bigger backpack, and I do think I packed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was saying the reason why I pack so much stuff that I can't send off is because it's foodie things that I just need. I can't live without them.
You can't do without them.
Yeah, I use them every day.
Okay, show us your must-haves.
So my first thing is coconut oil. Just a little tiny sort of jar. I think there was one time where I bought some olive oil and I was just so worried about it spilling everywhere.
In your bag.
So yeah, coconut oil, obviously it's got more uses than just cooking stuff
That's
up.
right.
And
you can do oil pulling.
Yeah. And actually, if I don't have any like makeup remover, I use coconut oil on some little like reusable pads. Take that off.
That's a good tip. So removing your makeup,
cooking food with it. I mean, as butter, if you're dairy free, it's not quite the same thing,
but it does work.
But yeah, it does. It just kind of like does the extra job for it.
And then oil pulling.
Yeah. And I don't really use it as like moisturizer, but I know some people do.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
And some people even put it in their dry ends of their hair.
Yeah, especially if you're going swimming, then you know, dry ends are a big problem.
Yeah. So there you go, multi-purposes. Yeah.
So that's always my go-to. That I'm always like, okay, I need something to cook like stuff in. So oil, and then my other thing is some salt. I always have a little salt shaker.
It's even a grinder.
Yeah. I was like the night before I like left to the East Coast, I like said to my auntie, I was like, oh, I need to like take some salt with me. I was just gonna buy one because you can get the small ones from like Aldi and stuff. But she had this little one, so I just filled it up with Himalayan salt. It's looking a bit grotty because some mayonnaise got spilled. It wasn't my mayonnaise, it was a friend. Her pasta with mayonnaise got spilled in the bag and just kind of leaked over everything. And I was like, well, I really need my salt shaker, so it's incorporated in there.
What about pepper?
I'm not really a massive pepper user. I might
I'm going to have to convert her to my pepper.
But the next thing is soy sauce. I mean, well, it's tamari actually. So if I don't have salt, soy sauce just kind of like...
It gives it some flavour as well as salt. So you just take that in a resealable bag so that it doesn't spill everywhere.
Yeah, I was just going to put it straight in, and again my aunt was like, no, I'd feel better if you took it in a little bag. So yeah, but it's just good for like veggies if you don't have any salt, and stir fry is just really simple to make when you're on the go.
So tell us about your stir fry.
Okay, so the other night actually I only had one night in Cairns, and I thought, what do I make? So I was like at the supermarket thinking, I can't get that because that's like 2 nights worth. So I ended up buying some lamb steaks, which they were the cheapest like meat that I could find. And then I just bought like a packet of stir-fried veggies, and then I just stir-fried them with a bit of oil and tamari, and then fried my steaks, and that was meal for the night. And that's really what I try and focus on, is making sure that I've got some protein and my veg. Like, if like when you're traveling, that's like the main thing that I think about. And if that isn't available, then I'm in a very sticky situation.
Eggs.
Yeah, eggs. Yeah. But obviously, like traveling here, I noticed they don't have like little 6-packs of eggs.
Yeah, sometimes they do, but you don't see them all the time.
Most of the time, it's like 10 packs, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. If I'm there for one night, I don't want to carry eggs around with me, because that's just gonna end in disaster.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they're like the first few things that I like initially like I need to take with me. And then something I picked up along the way was some apple cider vinegar.
That's a large bottle.
It was the smallest one I could find.
Okay.
Literally.
We need a travel size.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I find like a smaller jar.
Yeah.
But I can't actually remember why I bought it.
But
there was a particular reason that I was like, okay, I need some apple cider vinegar.
Your salads, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that wasn't initially why I bought it. I can't remember, because it was like I was maybe like a week in, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll get some of that. It'll come to me.
It'll come to you.
Yeah, why I bought it. But it is just really good. Say if I am doing a salad, I'll just put that on.
Could use it for cleaning.
Yeah. And none of the nasty hostel stuff that the gross stuff.
If you start getting a sore throat, apple cider vinegar and honey, hot drinks.
Yeah. That's because I like drinking water in the morning. Yeah. And sometimes I'll either do lemon or I'll do vinegar.
There you go.
And like, so I don't know if you've ever talked about this, but I'm like big on like blood sugar balancing and keeping your blood sugar like level throughout the day, especially when you're traveling and you're eating like so erratically, and you might be eating like more sugary things than normal. So if you actually have, I think it's 15 ml of apple cider vinegar before each meal, actually like keeps your blood sugar like more level than meals when you don't have it.
So do you just have it in a bit of water?
Yeah, I wouldn't take it straight. Some people prefer it straight, but just in a little bit of water, like I think it's like 10 minutes before your meal, and that's shown to have like a beneficial effect on
that's
your
good
blood
to
sugar.
know. So maybe that's why you picked it up.
Yeah, but there was another reason, but I can't quite remember what it was. But it certainly is. It's something to take with you.
Yeah.
And then some other things that I then just sort of picked up along the way are some like granola. That's
important.
I'm not usually a granola person. Usually in the mornings I'll have eggs on toast.
Yeah.
But again, with egg situation, I don't really do that whilst I'm
difficult.
traveling, especially when I'm like on a coach and I'm there, until 10 a.m. in the morning, and I can't.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that opening boiled eggs on a
No.
coach. I don't think you'll be popular.
You don't want to be that person.
No. I've done it on a plane, I must admit.
Ooh.
When I was desperate. Gaps. I was on Gaps and I had to take my boiled eggs with me because there was nothing much else I could eat.
Yeah, I suppose the meals on the plane, they're just...
No, there's not much.
They're really gross. You just kind of have to push through and be like, okay, I'm turning a blind eye.
Yeah, if you're starving.
Yeah, no, especially. So when I'm on like the coaches and the truck stops are just horrendous, especially for gluten-free.
Yeah.
I went up to one and I was like, oh, I'll have the poached eggs on toast with gluten-free bread, and the guy looked at me so funny and he was like, we tried doing that but no one ate it, and I was like, well, why is it on your menu then? So I went back to the coach, feeling very sorry for myself, and it was
hungry.
like 6 a.m. in the morning, and I ended up eating some bread and hummus that had been sitting in my bag like the whole night, and I was like, I'm hungry, like I need to eat something, and it was, I sent my mum a message, be like, Mum, look what I just ate for breakfast.
Lukewarm hummus that's been there all night.
Yeah, I didn't eat the rest of it because it was like, this has been going on for too many days. Something you've got to be careful of, keeping things for too long. But yeah, granola, and usually I get like a Greek yogurt, and then some berries.
And they're pretty, like a little plain yogurt's pretty easy to buy.
Yeah, no, some of the truck stops do have some good stuff, but if it's really like sort of far out, the one in Townsville, it was horrible.
I think the more outback you go, the more difficult it is, and that is one question that someone asked travelling in the far north, like in the Northern Territory. It's pretty much truck stops.
Yeah,
and it's pretty rubbish, the food. So it's a matter of taking things with you that will help.
Full, and sort of not diving into the junk food, because so many people I've met just sort of along the way eating Doritos and Oreos for breakfast, and I don't know how people do that.
I don't know that. I'd be I just wouldn't. It wouldn't last long anyway, would
it?
Yeah.
And you would. That's why people are so like instantly hungry. Like when they're traveling, they're like, oh, let's go and get something, and they pick up then a cookie or whatever. But that's why it's good to be able to educate people on like how to travel and eat. Eat well.
Yes. Well, in this granola, it's mostly nuts and seeds by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's a mixture of a couple of like packets of random things. Some from Woolies, and then there was like a paleo granola from Aldi that I didn't really like. I found it a bit sweet, and then I just picked up like a seedy nut mix and just mixed it in.
Yeah, so that it's mostly
mostly nuts and seeds. Yeah, because obviously like some of the yogurts I've found, one of them had like a load of sugar in it. And it said plain yogurt on the top, and I was like, oh great, and then I ate it, and I was like, oh. It was, really gross. And then with the berries, that sweetens it up.
Yeah.
So,
we have a favourite granola, which is the Primal Alternative one.
Oh, okay.
And they've got a hemp granola, which is like crunchy clusters.
Ooh.
And that one's really nice. And there's another one that's got peanut butter and maple syrup in it. It's so good.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to show you
I'll have
those.
to try it. We'll be eating that afterwards.
Yeah. I had granola for lunch yesterday, even though I was at home with yogurt.
Yeah. So, something I don't eat a lot of pasta like when I'm at home obviously it's nice sometimes, but that's what the majority of like backpackers live on. I watched two girls one night, they just cooked up some spaghetti and then mixed pesto in. And I know a lot of people at uni, like they just eat pesto pasta all the time.
Oh, okay.
And I was thinking, I know they're lining their stomachs for a big night, but that is not going to like fill them up. That's only going to set them up for a higher like crash, you know, in the end. But so I gave in because I was, you know, really struggling to find some things that I could just eat that were like quick to make and they didn't have loads of ingredients. And I thought, okay, I'll get some pasta and I can do some fresh veggies and then use any of those leftover veggies to make I made a pizza the next night. Granted, it wasn't the most amazing pizza, but
what did you use for the base?
I bought a gluten-free base, and then I just used the rest of the pasta, like the passata and the tomatoes and onion and then some spinach that I'd already put in the pasta the night before. So it was kind of like the same meal, but in a different shape.
That's completely fine. And when you're hungry, you appreciate it.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't want to be eating like the same thing over and over again. You're just like, oh,
not again.
Yeah, like pasta again tonight. So it's nice to like do it in a different meal.
What about those little tins of plain tuna, like in spring water or something? Do you ever have those?
So I tend to go for like salmon. I don't really eat tuna myself. And if I haven't really seen any mackerel here. I don't know if that's something that you...
I can get it in big tins, but I don't know about small tins. I'm not sure.
Because when I'm back at home, sometimes for breakfast, I love, it's guilty pleasure, having the mackerel in like tomato sauce.
Yeah.
And I'll do that on toast with some avocado, and I just love that. But I haven't been able to find mackerel here.
Okay.
Usually it's like mostly salmon.
I should take you down to the seafood shop because she has tins. Our local seafood shop has tins of all sorts of really good options, as well as all the fresh stuff.
Because I don't mind sardines.
Actually,
I try and like...
So I'm just going to go look in my cupboard right now. So these are the little...
they look cool.
Little tins of sardines, and that one's native lemon myrtle in virgin olive oil and native pepperberry leaf in virgin olive oil.
Okay. Because again, it's really hard to find things that aren't in like sunflower oil.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I usually just get spring water. But if you can find it in olive oil, it's like, yes,
that's even better.
There you go. You can add them to your kit.
Little jackpot.
Oh, have you got a tin opener? Okay, these are not travel friendly. They have no tin opener.
No pool lid. Okay. Sometimes the hostels have
tin openers,
things to open these things, but it's generally when I'm like...
Well, have a look if we've got a camping one. We might have a camping one.
Camping tin opener to add to my little...
Yeah, but it's like those ones that are this big and you've got to go...
Yeah. I mean, so I've like grown up, you know, travelling with my parents, and we'll be like being in not hostels, sometimes hostels. Yeah. But mainly like Premier Inns, and we'd travel around, and sometimes my parents would be like cooking with a Thermomix in a hotel room, which is a little bit naughty.
Really funny stories.
But yeah, you know, we kind of like sussed out, okay, how do we not set off the fire alarm? You know,
just with steam, guys.
Just steaming. But we don't have like a camping stove or anything like that.
No.
And, you know, generally we'll do risottos and maybe we did the odd curry. But yeah, so
the neighbours would be like.
Yeah, well actually, I think once we were in a Premier Inn and the woman who was cleaning the room said, "Oh, it smells like curry out here in the hallway," and it's because we were cooking up a curry like in our hotel room.
It's like quick wafted out the window.
Yeah, we generally had the window open and stuff. But gradually over the years, my mum just built up this, not a box, it was like a bag of kitchen utensils that she'd go along and think, oh, well, they didn't have, you know, a good tin opener, or they didn't have a veggie peeler. And so gradually when, like, we go away, even to, like, an Airbnb where we've got our own kitchen, we just have all of these things that we take the kitchen sink.
You pretty much have to, though, because, like we were talking about earlier, they just don't have good pans. They don't have good knives. Like, made the mistake of, we stayed at an Airbnb for one of my book photo shoots, and I didn't think, some reason I forgot my kitchen knives, and we were doing the cooking for the cookbook, and there's all these blunt knives. I'm like, we're gonna have to go buy good knives. Wow. I can't believe I forgot the knives. But even really nice Airbnbs don't generally have good knives or good pans.
Yeah, and that's something, I mean, obviously if you're in a hotel room, you can't really cook
No.
Unless you do take the Thermomix with you. But yeah, even Airbnbs, some of them you just think. And I stayed in one the other day and there was no veggie peeler.
Yeah.
And I was there with a carrot, like
With a knife.
just like trying to skin it. I thought about putting it in the feedback. I was like, no, that's being really picky. I bet no one has ever given me a feedback saying, well, there wasn't a veggie knife.
A veggie peeler.
Yeah, veggie peeler. But yeah, that's just a couple of things that, I like to sort of keep in my bag.
Well, I mean, that's at least small enough that you could add it to your kit.
Yeah, although that being said, if it went like, you wouldn't be able to take that on an airplane, would
If
you?
it's in the suitcase, maybe.
Because I got my sport confiscated once.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
When I was thinking,
how are you going to hurt someone with that?
I mean, actually, it was a different one. It was
Okay.
like a double-edged spoon and a fork.
So it had the
kind of a
knife
serrated
aside.
knife.
Right.
Yeah.
This is very cool, though.
Yeah. It's a good little small one.
How do you?
So you just like pull that back and then it
there
folds
you go.
up. Handy, like when you like make a salad for lunch, to take with you, and you're like, I don't like collecting loads of plastic things.
Yeah.
A little spork to
Just
have
say,
on the
keep
go.
the plastic. I've got my own.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. And then to add to that, I've got my little
Tea
if I
strainer.
want some tea, because I felt a bit ill after so many days of working on someone else's terms, and this person didn't like eat. They had 2 meals a day, and it just, with all like the snorkeling and the swimming, and I got sunburn, I just became like a little bit ill, so I had to pick up some loose leaf tea. And I said to the lady, she was like a herbalist in Byron Bay, I was like, oh, I
That's
don't
the place
have
to go for tea.
yeah. I was like, I don't have anything to put loose tea in. She was like, I've got one of these. So this is another thing to add to
That
my
is-
little.
I
little
really agree with that, because whenever I go to a even an Airbnb, they don't usually have a tea strainer for loose leaf tea, and I like loose leaf teas, not tea bags. So yeah, I usually take a little strainer with me as well.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing to add to the kit.
Yeah.
And I suppose like even at home, that's so much like it's really useful.
It's easy.
Yeah, because I like sometimes I do catch myself like buying teas, especially when I'm on the go.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to just use a tea bag,
And you can get some with good tea bags, but a lot of them have microplastics in the tea bag.
Yeah, especially when you're putting them into hot water. It's not great.
No.
So that's like a new thing. It's my latest addition. But some things that I absolutely love that I never. So when I was coming over from the UK, my mum was just filling up my suitcase with different things. I was like, Mum, I don't have room for that. But she was like, oh, like have these, and she uses them at home. Little like collapsible.
They're very cool.
Containers, so they just pop out like that.
Silicon.
And I didn't think I would use them as much as I do, and they're so handy. Like, like the hostel fridges are just like bursting.
Yeah.
So you've got to put everything in bags and stuff so that yours doesn't get lost. And these especially are good for like not leaking. So if I've got some veggies.
What's the brand?
It's called
Ernesto.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we can find some in Australia. It's even got a little seal thing.
Yeah.
It's cool.
No, I wouldn't recommend putting them in the dishwasher though.
No, I wouldn't mind. That's silicon.
Yeah. But they are really handy. They've got lots of different sizes. So I do love those.
Handy.
And then I've got some little like reusable beeswax wraps. Like say if I have a sandwich, that's good to just pack those up. Or I put raw carrots in them.
Yeah, in a little baggie.
When I'm like on the go, like say on a day trip, some carrots, and then I might buy some hummus to, have with those. So then the last few things, obviously a little reusable cup.
That's cool.
And I love this for on the aeroplane, because every time they come around, they're like, oh, do you want a drink? And then they'll just give you a little plastic cup.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came over a few years ago, I was like, there is so much plastic, especially on aeroplanes.
Yeah.
And I think I'd tried to give them my water bottle and they wouldn't accept it.
That's right, yeah.
So I was like, right, I'm going to buy one of these. And it's great. You just take it on and I've had no issues. And
that's good.
especially if you're having they come round so many times in a flight that.
So what's that little bit?
This just keeps it.
Oh, that just keeps it all together.
It keeps it stable, so when you've got it pressed out, you pop that on.
Yeah.
And obviously if it's hot as
Yeah,
well.
it's like to hold on to.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea. Stojo is the...
I do have a glass one, but then I thought, oh, that's probably going to get broken. People chucking my bags around on aeroplanes and coaches and stuff.
Less room.
Less room, exactly. And if I do have a coffee, I generally sit down anyway. So
and have a proper cup.
Yeah, and enjoy it.
Yes.
I'm big on enjoying things, especially when you're traveling.
Coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. So then a few other things that are new that I've been like, okay, that's a good idea.
Where's your other container of garlic?
I think it's around there. Yeah. A new addition from Jo is...
We're swapping.
Yeah, we did a little swap. I bought some fresh garlic and I can't remember where I got the little pot. I had some fish and chips on the beach.
Yeah.
And I thought, actually, that container's so useful. Just put a bit of garlic in there.
Yeah.
I think they are sprouting.
That's right.
But
I can plant them.
Garlic granules, just for a bit of flavour, really, to add to your cooking. And obviously, when you've got fresh stuff in your bag, it goes off. And so the more I can have
that's dried,
just spice mixes, Jo's spice mixes.
My spice blend. This is the Corndale Grove, which is the New South Wales organic garlic. So we were selling these granules in the store, but we find the powder sells the most.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but either one, the granules or the garlic, and they've got no additives, so it's just 100% certified organic garlic. Yeah.
So I look forward to using that one.
Yeah, it's just helps to have salt, tamari, garlic, you've got easy stir fry right there.
Yeah, I mean, I did buy some garlic salt.
Yeah.
That was in the UK. I was like, I need some salt. And it comes in these gorgeous little pots. And it's a little bit easier sometimes just to have it all
Just
in
a
one.
lot of those things have anti-caking agents, and then if you don't want that, it's like finding one that doesn't. And
and then the last thing is a new addition, some beef stock or
powder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too badly priced actually, only $10 or so. But you can get lots of different ones, but this one looks good.
That's an organic one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's an organic stock, and the brand is San Elk. If anyone's, it smells really good. I haven't tried this one.
But you gave me a good idea for in the mornings, just whipping up some beef stock and poaching eggs and veggies in it for a brekkie.
Yes.
Which is obviously a good idea if I've got a kitchen.
Yep.
Because I love a savoury breakfast. And it's so hard when I'm just having yogurt and granola every
all
day.
the time.
I'm like, because
get tired of that.
Yeah, I mean, but equally it sets me up for a day where it's like, okay, I've started my day off with a kind of a higher sugar kind of content meal, where it's like I get more of a balanced blood sugar if you start off with something savoury like eggs.
Yes.
My favourite kind of brekkie to start off with. And then the last thing is
I introduced Tori to these. These are so good.
These, I mean, we have in the UK these things called pepperami sticks, and they are just full of rubbish.
Yeah.
But this is an organic beef one, so I'm looking forward to just eating this on the go. This would have been perfect for that morning when I couldn't get anything at the truck
it would have
stop.
been perfect. So the ingredients are Australian organic grass-fed beef, 94%, sea salt, honey, black pepper, cultured Swiss chard powder, organic beetroot powder, acerola, cherry juice powder, antioxidant culture, edible collagen casing. So they've got different ones there. And they also have jerky.
Oh, okay.
So they have beef jerky, they have chicken jerky, which is nice, and it's all natural. So I get those at my local health food shop.
Okay, they're really good. Because I do often see like the jerky at these truck stops, and I think, is it any good?
Yeah, you really have to
everything in it to preserve it.
Here locally, we can get some good jerky that doesn't have all the bad additives, but you kind of have to search for it.
Okay.
And my kids, they take that in there, especially India, but she's always got jerky in her bag for waterfall trips and hikes and just life. She always has jerky.
Yeah.
Simi usually has those, and India usually has jerky.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a good little thing, and hopefully I'll be able to find it.
Yeah.
Whilst on the road.
We'll have to find you some before you leave. What's in the little black case?
So a couple of things that aren't they're not totally food related, but they are health related. This is my emotional support water bottle.
Emotional support.
Yeah, I don't go anywhere without it.
Yeah.
It's my little travel Quirky filtered water bottle, so you can just fill it up with normal water and
it filters in the bottom and comes up.
I have to be careful, like trying to clean it out because the straw gets a bit sort of gunged up.
I suppose you could get one of those little straw cleaners.
Yeah, another thing to add. I did have another one. I think it's called a Grail bottle, and that itself I think you can take out into like streams and stuff.
Yeah.
And you use like, I think it's gravity kind of, you've got to, it doesn't hold very much and you've got to push down and that filters really bad bacteria out and stuff.
Oh, that's
but it's more for like a camping trip though.
Yeah.
I'd recommend that.
Yeah.
I got it for an aeroplane trip a few years ago because apparently they store the water next to the toilet, which makes me a bit, skeptical about drinking, the tap water on an aeroplane. I was thinking, am I like drinking poo germs here? So I was really paranoid about it, so I bought a Grail bottle.
Yeah.
And I did bring it with me, but then I was like, I've got 2 filtered water bottles here.
I'll probably just need one.
Yeah, I've got to prioritise one, and so because I thought I'm probably going to be drinking out of taps rather than lakes, I'll go for that one.
Yeah. And here she's just been drinking out the zazen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been very spoilt with all the lovely food here. And my mum was like, oh, if you go to Jo's, at least I know you're getting a good feed.
Yeah, we're feeding you up for the next part of your trip.
Yeah, and my mum knows what I'm eating because she's like, oh, I've seen you had sour cream and eggs and crispy mushrooms for breakfast. I was like, oh, I didn't even have to tell you that.
She just watches my stories.
Yeah, and it's so funny. She's like, what are you up to today? Or she already knows. Yeah.
But we're surprising her with this podcast. She doesn't know about this.
Yeah, she is. Sorry, Mum. Hello.
Hi, Leslie. And Dan.
So then my final thing that I love to take with me, this is a new edition, and I actually saw it on Instagram. I can't remember what his name is, and he was talking about all of his travel tips for when he goes on an aeroplane, and he was like, I don't mind looking weird when I put on my blue light glasses, because he'll sit there on the plane with like red light glasses and what is it? Is it methane blue?
Oh yeah.
That he puts on his tongue.
Yeah.
I'd never really heard of it.
I've heard of it just recently.
Yeah, I think it's to do with like warding off like bad germs and stuff. And he puts that on his tongue, but during the flight.
What does it look like?
He's got like a blue tongue, which is, it's really weird.
So you gotta put them on for us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit odd putting them on during like the daytime because I kind of feel like I'm on Mars. Everything's like super orange. And I was sitting next to this lady on the airplane. She was like, "Can you like tell me why your glasses are red?" And I was like, "Well, actually, so because if you're on a long haul flight and you're watching movies, even within like an hour, I was like, I'm getting a headache just from looking at the light, and it was going dark." I was like, I put those on, and within I don't know how, maybe half an hour or so, just my headache just disappeared.
Oh, that's good.
So I walk through the airports with that, especially when it's like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be sleeping. Put those on, it just makes me feel so much better.
Oh, that's good.
And then obviously if I'm preparing for bedtime, so you just put those on.
Yeah. And
it makes everything just a little bit less bright and light.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So that's a new one that I'm really loving that. And obviously you just got to embrace looking a bit funny.
That's all right.
Walking, being on the aeroplane or even on the coaches, because they have, the only lights that they have on the coaches are blue. And especially when it's nighttime.
Yeah.
Just putting them on. And my friend said to me, she's like, why have you got those glasses on and an eye patch? Because it's like trying to sleep. I was like, well, 1, I'm tired, and 2, when I take off the eye mask, it's going to be
too bright.
Yeah. So they're like my little, my travel essentials. I don't think I've left anything off.
We've got to hear some of your travel food stories now. She's told me some good ones.
Some good ones.
Well, what about when you first arrived and you were in that park and you were...
Oh yeah, I was in Brisbane, and I've always like grown up, my mum's making like stuff to take with us, because obviously eating out's really expensive, especially when you're traveling. And often, we're cooking in hotels, and my mum's made up like some little salads to take with us. And I was sat in Brisbane, like a little park, and I was waiting for like my Airbnb to check in. And I was like, well, I didn't make anything, but I've got some leftovers like in my cooler bag. So I was sat in a park.
She also brings a little cooler bag.
Yeah. I was sat in a park with my little reusable container, and I sent a video to my mum being like, okay, I've got a little pouch of red onions, some spinach, and I also had beetroot, and then a little tin of like salmon, and I think a couple of other veggies that I just made into a salad in the middle of this on the park bench, and it was so funny. And then olive oil,
coconut
oil, and my vinegar that I just did a little dressing. I said to my dad, I am my mother's daughter. You know, trying to be on a budget here and eat healthily at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes, again, you got to look a bit weird.
That's
but
right.
I'm sure someone in the park wondered what I was doing. You know. But yeah, you gotta embrace it.
Love it.
I'm trying to think what else I've made.
Yeah, so when you're in a hostel and you've got very basic ingredients and basic cookware, you said stir fry.
Yeah, stir fry's
granola with
always a good one to just. I mean, you don't even have to do steak. It was just what I was able to eat in one night. I generally do chicken. I said to my brother like a few years ago, like if I lived away from home, I think all I would eat is stir-fried chicken and veggies. This is before I was a nutritional therapist. But it is, you know, it's got the protein and the veggies, and that's what I'm most concerned about doing every single day and every single meal.
Yeah.
But then what's some other things? I did like eggs and again, like just fried veggies, you know, coconut oil.
For breakfast?
Yeah. And that's, I met a girl who's a vegetarian, and I served up, you know, eggs and veggies. She's like, wow, you're such a good cook. And I was like, this is just the basics of like, you know, something really basic that I know just to have for breakfast.
And then you made her a chili and blew her mind.
Yeah, I did her a vegetarian chili, and she'd never had beans like before, like kidney beans or anything like that. And it was just literally just pure veggies, because she was like, I need some fibre, and I was like, I can do that for you. That's another thing that I'm always concerned about, is getting fibre and staying regular when you're traveling.
We knew it was going to happen.
It was always going to come up.
Nutritionists, they love it.
Every day, especially like when you're traveling and you're not eating as well, you've got to make sure that your bowels are moving and you're getting rid of everything that maybe shouldn't be there.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why I love a good stir fry.
Yeah.
For sure.
What did you put in your chili so you just went to the shops and got the basic ingredients for that one, but did you have spice blend, or did you?
So I did that at my auntie's before we left. So, you know, I had a pantry. Well, that's one thing I've learned. Like, I'm so grateful to have a pantry at home.
Yes.
And to not live out of a suitcase. A wardrobe, you know. I sent my auntie a text saying, oh, I miss you, and I also miss your pantry and the wardrobe. You do sort of feel very grateful when you come back to these things. What was I saying about? Oh, the chili. Yeah, I did mushrooms, kale, tomatoes.
Did you say kidney beans?
Yeah, kidney beans. I don't really use a recipe when I do chili. I just kind of
me either,
throw it all in.
I did figure one out for everybody else, because I was like, I suppose I better have a recipe.
Yeah. It's always good to just chuck everything in, any kind of veggie, and you can just disguise it with, you know, for so many people who don't actually like veggies.
That's right. Chili is a great way of disguising veggies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is my Tex-Mex spice blend would be good to put in a little pouch
container
or something. Well, it is in a pouch, but it's a big pouch, but you could put it in a smaller one.
I suppose if you're using it so often with every meal, you might actually use up
you would probably use
pouch.
It. And I use that one as for taco mince, so it's like a tablespoon to 500 grams of mince. With just a little bit of, if you have tomato paste, but you can leave it out, like a tablespoon of tomato paste and a drizzle of water. So it's got everything, and salt. You need salt, because I don't have salt in my spice blends. But that's like a taco mince, which you could add veggies to, or you could make it into a chili, and have it just in a wrap, or with a bit of rice or whatever. If you can get some good corn chips from a health food shop, it's not full of vegetable oil. But also the butter chicken one, that one's really handy if you don't have, a couple of people asked about camping food. I know, so my manager Emma is a vegetarian, and she always takes my butter chicken mix when she goes camping. And she makes she takes, you've got the tinned coconut cream, ghee, and the spice mix. I'm trying to think what else. It's got onion, hasn't it? I'll have to remember, garlic. And then she just does chickpeas and vegetables. So that's all stuff that doesn't really have to be in the fridge.
Especially tins too.
I
mean, I don't mind buying the odd tin that I can use for one night. Especially with the butter chicken. Because I was in Aldi, and I was on the phone to my mum, I'm really struggling to find something, especially for one night. She was like, oh, well, when you go up to Jo's, she can show you her spice blends. Because I was, looking at the ones in Aldi, and they were all just filled with vegetable oil.
So many fillers.
And I was just I don't want to buy these things, but it's
right.
so
We'll fix
easy.
you up.
You'll send me away with.
And then you can have the pumpkin pie spice on your granola.
Oh yeah.
And what's the other one? We've got 2 new ones coming out in about a week's time. One's gingerbread and one's Moroccan, which is really nice on salads.
The gingerbread is one.
We have tested that one well.
Yeah,
we had 3 batches that we had to compare.
Unfortunately, we had to test it.
I think we're still going.
There's still
There's still more to test.
That,
and can you think of any other meals that you like to make in the hostel kitchen that are really easy? Basically meat and veg. That's the main thing.
That's all I can get. But hummus and carrots is always obviously again. I'm so fussy with my hummus that a lot of the times I just don't end up buying it. But there's one, it's called pipil hummus, and that doesn't contain any sunflower or rapeseed oil. That's the only one that I've managed to find, especially in a Woolworths Express.
That's always difficult.
Because some of the smaller shops just don't have anything. But it's certainly a lot easier to eat gluten-free here than it is
that's
in
interesting.
the UK. Even just in my town, even in Malanda, there's everything's pretty much gluten-free.
We have a gluten-free cafe that's homemade.
You don't get that over there.
We're pretty lucky.
So I am very spoiled that there's plenty of stuff to eat if I need to eat outside. If you've got any
have you
ideas
got it
yourself?
I do. What about sweet treats though? What do you usually buy for a sweet treat? If you do have one.
Probably I bought some dark chocolate from Aldi. But sometimes the little, are they called Boost? Little Boost balls.
The little balls. My kids loved them.
I love those.
Peanut butter Boost balls.
And there were a couple of others that I've just seen once that was cheapest in Coles that is in the health food section, and obviously doesn't have too many ingredients.
Because at least you can get more of those bliss balls and things now.
No, definitely. I think what else did I have? Sometimes I'll have a bit of fruit, but obviously if I'm travelling around I can't take loads of things. If I do treat myself, it'll be the watermelon, because Australian watermelon is just unlike any other melon. In the UK you'll
must
buy
be the sunshine.
in the UK you get a small watermelon for £4, which is $7. Whereas here you pay $2 for a massive slice, and it's nice. Whereas the one in the UK you're not guaranteed. It's kind of I don't know why I spent that.
Oh, that's disappointing. Oh well, enjoy the watermelon while you can.
Absolutely.
And it's mango season now. We've got a box of mangoes sitting on the table that was dropped off. Although they're a bit green, you'll have to take a couple with you. And what else have we had? We've had organic and peaches, organic peaches. That they were so good, weren't they?
Really
so the good fruits coming on, the summer fruit. So there's usually something you can find at markets and things. To eat. So I've got a list here of some things that I have found helpful for travelling when I always used to get teased when we'd go on our work trips on, for seminars and things, and I'd always have some things in my bag, like an avocado with a plastic knife or spoon that I could cut it open with, and a little container with salt and pepper, of course my Aussie pepper and my sea salt, and spoon. And I would just cut open the avocado, sprinkle it with salt and pepper, and eat it out with the spoon. So that was one of my favourite ones for travelling. I would do boiled eggs and put them in the fridge, and so they were cold, and then the next morning I would take them with me and eat them within, the first half or so of the day. And I had my salt and pepper with me. I was in the Qantas Club back when I was travelling all the time before COVID. And so every time I went in there, I'd grab a few things of butter and honey and stuff them in my backpack. And then wherever I went, I at least had butter I could put on, if it was seed crackers, or if it was, I actually love butter on boiled eggs. I know that sounds weird, but it's really good. Cassia taught me that. Wow. And I'd have honey for my tea, and I'd have my own tea with me. So when you're on the plane, you don't have to pay for a hot drink. You just ask for
hot water.
Can I just have hot water in my cup, and they'll just give you that for free, and you use your own tea.
That's why I've got my own little tea bags, and I said to the stewardess, I was like, can you just give me some hot water? And she was like, okay. I was like, I've got a tea bag here. I just want herbal teas, because they don't have that. No. Yeah. But I've actually not been eating butter whilst I'm on the road.
Because it might go off.
Yeah, because I'm not eating it, all the time.
Yeah. I think I would cry if I didn't.
Yeah. I've been introduced to the butter life of putting butter on everything.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So she's enjoying it while she's here.
Yeah.
I usually made chocolate energy bars to take. So when I went to the UK that time in 2015, I was traveling for 3 weeks, and I made a heap of chocolate energy bars. So basically I make my dairy-free chocolate, which is just cacao butter, cacao powder, a little bit of salt, vanilla and honey. So it sets really firm, and it doesn't have to be in the fridge. Obviously if it's sitting out in the sun, it's going to melt, but if it's just at room temperature, it's fine. But what I do is I pack it so full in a dish with roasted nuts and seeds and roasted coconut and some dried fruit, so that it's almost like a muesli bar that's held together by chocolate.
Oh.
And then I cut it into thin bars, and I wrap each one in baking paper and put them all into a reusable bag. And then I travel with that. And I took them around the UK for 3 weeks, and I still had a couple left at the end of the trip, and they're not melted, And they're so good for an energy boost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when we went to Spain, one thing that I took was the paleo Christmas cake on my blog, because that's really dense, and I took that in slices wrapped, and we ate that for I think our first meal in Spain, that and cheese and crackers, because I had cheese and crackers as well. And that lasted for a bit of the trip because it doesn't crumble, it's all wrapped. Buckwheat and almond crackers, love those. That's in Life Changing Food, so that one is really good for traveling in little reusable bags. If you're going to be, if you've got a fridge in the morning, you can make your chia puddings overnight and make some in little jars, just enough for breakfast, and have that for breakfast, or take it with you on the travels. There's also another really good idea. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. Wait, I'll go and get it. Okay. So just recently I was given a big container of this milk made by Flora Foods, and I reckon this would be a really good idea to take in a jar. If I can get this open. Yeah, can you get that open? It's hard to open. But tip a bit into a jar, a really tight screw top jar, and basically you use 1 tablespoon. It's like a nut butter. I don't know if you can see that.
Like tahini.
It's a bit like tahini consistency, yeah. That might even work, but anyway. And you mix that, just whisk it with a fork into 2 cups of water. So 1 tablespoon to 2 cups of water, and then you've got a dairy-free milk. And then you could use that to
make chia pudding.
Yeah, make chia pudding, or add to your cuppa or whatever, and you could just make enough for 1 cup.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good idea.
So I thought something like that would be handy because it doesn't have to be refrigerated. So that's That's a good one for camping as well. Because even if you've got a tin of coconut milk, you've got to use the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going.
Yeah. You've got to use it all in like sort of
Yeah. So it's like, But chia puddings I like for on the plane. So I usually make those in a little jar and have a couple in a cold bag, just a little lunch bag with berries and whatever you like in your chia pudding. And that's a really nice little travel snack. It's quite filling.
Yeah. I do know of a girl who, she was a vegan and she was making chia puddings in the morning, and I suppose you can just buy a bag of chia seeds.
You
some
can
milk sort of on the way.
Yeah, or if you can get a small tin of coconut cream, that's handy. I'm not sure how small a tin you can get though. I think the smallest is like that, isn't it?
Yeah, probably like maybe 400 grams.
Yeah, or coconut milk. Let's see, bliss balls, obviously homemade bliss balls, or coconut. Or cookie dough balls, they're also good. And I freeze them and then take them frozen. Most of my snacks, I'll make ahead and pre-wrap them and put them into bags and then freeze them and then grab them as I leave. And I'll have a little lunch bag that's got a cold pack in it, and that will keep me going for the day. But a lot of the stuff's frozen, so it'll last for a few days, even if you don't have a fridge. But most places I go, I've got a fridge at night.
Yeah. They're not too stuck.
Also things like if you just make some popcorn and mix butter and salt through it and put that in a zippy bag, that's a good little snack. It's not very filling though, but sometimes you just want something salty and crunchy, and it's better than buying chips, right?
Yeah, because at least you know what's going into popcorn.
Yeah. I do usually make something like flourless chocolate cake or brownies, or something that's quite dense with the almond meal and dates and things like that. It's kind of like a brownie bliss ball kind of slice, because that lasts really well as well. Carrot sticks, like you mentioned. Let me think, what else have I done? Usually a little bit of fruit. Guacamole, if you're in somewhere where you've got something, you can keep it cold though. That's why I wasn't sure if people have that. But if you're camping, for those who are asking about camping, taking avocados, tomatoes, those basic ingredients, you can easily make guacamole and eat it in one go. And then when it comes to protein, I often have some cheese, like a hard cheese that we took some with us to the lake the other day, and I forgot about it, and the next day it was still there, but it was manchego and it's hard and it was fine. We still ate it.
We ate it later on.
It was good. And I love those Mary's Gone crackers. Have you seen those crackers? They're like seed crackers, and the brand is Mary's Gone crackers. They're really good if you don't want to make any. But I've got a few recipes for grain-free crackers or seed crackers. Another one that's good is making a really, a really seedy nut and seed bread that's kind of dense, and then you can cut it into thickish slices, and I usually put butter on them and then just put them together and wrap them. So then you've got bread, if you've got cheese, you've got that, or you've got avocado. And then, if you've maybe got a tomato with you that's not too squishy, you can put that in a bag, and then you've got lunch, pepper and salt. And that's always a good one. It's got plenty of protein in that because it's got a lot of eggs and nuts and seeds and things in the bread. I mean, it's not quite...
You're making me hungry.
Yeah, sorry. We can eat after this. And I usually take some nut butter in a little jar so that I can spread that on crackers or bread, because that's so filling when you don't have a proper meal.
Yeah, I suppose you can buy like little jars of like almond butter as well if you want to go and you forget that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. There's usually the sort of smallish jars of that. Okay, there's also, let's see, I've got the dehydrated broth on my list as well. I used to take that along. The flourless espresso cake made into cupcakes, that's a good one, just saying. Also mine, if you're nut-free, the grain-free, nut-free chocolate banana cake on my blog can be made into little cupcakes. That's really good. Herbal tea. I always have a little, like I said, I take the little containers of honey when I'm in the airport. Otherwise, I just have a little jar of honey to take with me. So if you've got kids and you've got those reusable squeezy pouches, I always had the little mashies ones. So I would fill those with nut milk or coconut milk because I was dairy free in the early days with all the traveling. And I would keep those in the freezer, and then that would go into my little lunch cold bag for a freezer, what do you call it? A cold brick, which was actually milk. And then on the plane, it would be starting to melt, and I would use that in my cuppa.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, so I would use
reusable ones.
Yeah, so you just get the reusable squeezy pouches.
Okay.
And
you can do that with yogurt.
Yeah, you can do that with yogurt, with smoothies, with if you have a way to make custard, and just freeze them, and then that's your cold brick, and then you've got that for a snack after.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a good idea, especially with the whole granola and stuff. Because I've been buying the disposable ones, and I'm like, oh, I really want to do this. Because then another thing is like trying to eat a whole tub of Greek yogurt in a certain amount of days, and it's been a struggle sometimes. Well, I don't want to chuck it away.
No. A little tip is if you're traveling, from city to city or whatever, going into the shops that have the big bulk bins like Source Bulk Foods or Naked Whole Foods or those kind of health food shops where they have the bins, and just getting enough nuts or seeds or
kind of like
snacks, granola.
And these are like reusable pouches.
Silicone pouches. So if you've got a few of them, you can just top it up with some fresh ones. You buy it in a brown paper bag and stick it in there, because then you only get as much as you'll use, and it's not wasting. I find when you buy a packet, for one thing, you've got all the plastic and all of that, but it's also, you may not get time to use it all, and you don't have something to tie it up with or whatever. And I also found that good for if you don't have a Quirky spice blend, which I hope you do, but Source Bulk Foods does have spice blends also, so you can get just a little bit in a bag. So that's handy as well. I'm trying to think what else I used to take that was, and maybe it's not just things that you take, but if you're in a city or somewhere and you're traveling, some things that you can buy that are not too expensive and that are plain. And I found when I was traveling in the UK, I was still on GAPS. Actually, I was on like the second or third week of GAPS intro, and I had to go down to Melbourne for seminars. And I was like, oh, what am I going to eat? This is going to be so hard. And I was staying in a motel room. So I don't think I had a kitchen or anything. And so I went on the maps and looked at what was around where I was staying. And oh my goodness, there was one of Matt Stone's restaurants just around the corner, and it was called Brothel. And it was all broths and bowls of broth with vegetables and eggs and kimchi and all that. And I was like, yes! So I went there like 3 times in that week, and got big bowls of broth and veggies. I made the mistake of having kimchi when I wasn't ready for it though, and that was not a good mistake. But anyway, we won't talk about that. That'll be another food talk, and we won't talk about that. It's not there now, but but there is a lot of. I found another place in Melbourne on another trip I was there in an alleyway, that was like just a little broth place, and that's all they sold.
Wow,
and you could just get your cup of. I got fish stock. And I was like, I don't even know if I like this. And it was amazing. It was It was properly made. It wasn't like additives and preservatives and flavours. So sometimes if you can find a good restaurant or something like that, you can get a good stock with heaps of veggies in it and just a bit of meat. And that's a really nice meal.
A nice meal. My mum was saying she went to this place in Brisbane, and you basically like chose your ingredients, and it was like a ramen place or like a stir-fried place, and you put everything that you wanted, and then they would like fry it up in front of you. I couldn't actually find where it was.
There's a lot of places like that where you can, like Korean barbecue or Japanese barbecue places, where you ask for the ingredients and then you cook it on your little cooker in front. That's what the kids were talking about yesterday, that one in Cairns. So you cook on the table, so you don't have to use any sauces or anything. It's just all but I found what I used to do was just go for the meat and veggie meals. If I was out, and I would ask for like steak and salad or fish with no coatings, just grilled, and I'd ask for butter to go with it, not margarine. I had to make sure it was butter. and I would just have plain veggies with it. So some places will have, like most places, like even some, you know, just shopping centres with a food court will have a roast dinner option. So I would ask for the roast dinner, but instead of the potatoes, can you add more pumpkin? Because I wasn't able to have potatoes at the time. And I'd say no gravy, and just get the basic meat and veggies, and then I would ask for butter if they had it, but sometimes they didn't. So that was a pretty usual meal for me. And then, like for breakfast, I would go into a cafe and look for the big breakfast, or in the UK it was a pub, and ask for the big breakfast, and it was like eggs, bacon, sausages, tomatoes, spinach. And so I would just say, don't give me the toast, can you just add another egg? And I'd say, can I have more tomatoes and mushrooms or whatever, and take away the things that had, like, most of the time the sausages are just full of fillers and stuff. So I'd say, don't give me the sausages, I'll just have, and I always found that they were happy to swap things out for me, so that was nice.
You've got to be brave.
You just have to ask
for these things.
And if you need to, just say, look, I'm on a special diet for health reasons, and I can't have. One lady mentioned that she finds it really hard eating out because she's super allergic to dairy, and she'll ask, does this sauce have dairy in it? And or does this meal have dairy in it? And they'll say no, and then the sauce ends up having dairy, and she's sick for days. So that's when you just kind of have to sometimes go to really plain food if you're quite, you know, sensitive, and just ask for no sauces. It's very sad, but
I mean, a lot of the time,
get used to it.
I find, like whilst I'm traveling, taking like a good probiotic just to cover me for, you know, the time being, because otherwise you just end up, you know, not feeling very well.
Queasy.
So that I can always say that, like, my two kind of supplements that I take, well, kind of regardless in everyday life, a probiotic and magnesium, because a lot of the time, you know, you're not getting enough enough sleep and all of your veggies, especially the dark green ones, because you've got to buy a whole bag of something.
So you don't.
And especially when you are traveling, sleep is such a massive thing. But actually I've found that in the backpacking life, a lot of people go to bed early anyway. If you're not out partying, then a lot of people are going to bed at, you know, 9-10 o'clock, because they're getting up early for tours and they're doing stuff.
Keeping busy.
If you find the right people, then you can get a good night's sleep. Anyway, but still, magnesium just for everything. Anyway. And keeping regular. More poo chat.
Have you got any tips for keeping regular? Oh, that's the magnesium.
Magnesium, you know, just trying to eat as many veggies as possible, and also water. But that's just general kind of things. But you know,
it's so easy to get dehydrated when you're traveling.
Absolutely.
Like, I find whenever I go on a flight, it seems to, like, I seem to be drinking, but when I get home, I'm so thirsty and dehydrated.
I mean, that's another thing. So if you're in a hot place, I like to add a bit of salt to my water, because people, I mean, you don't even have to be in a hot place. A lot of people find that they're drinking so much, but then they're just weeing everything out. And they're like, why am I weeing so much? And it's because you're weeing out the electrolytes. So adding a bit of, like, Himalayan
sea salt.
I suppose,
The one that I use is a good one, and it's got all those natural minerals in there. You want to get a good quality salt.
Absolutely. Like having minerals, whether you take like an electrolyte powder. I did do that for a while, but just something simple. If you've got your little salt shaker, just a bit of that in your water, and it becomes surprisingly nice that you don't notice it. To stop you getting dehydrated as well.
Well, that's a good tip. Sweet and salty nuts, that's a good one. That's on my blog. I do have a good recipe in, I don't know if I should mention it or not, because it is a little bit crumbly when you're traveling, but I always used to make it when I was traveling for seminars, because we all, like, the whole team loved it, and so it was like our travel treat. I'll just find it.
I wonder if there are any, like, good pestos out there that
I'm sure there would be. I'm sure there would be. So those veggie seaweed crackers. So that's dehydrated. It's got beetroot, carrot, garlic, cayenne pepper, cumin, oregano, lemon juice, bit of onion, Spanish onion, salt and ghee, and you make a paste out of it and spread it on nori sheets, and then you dehydrate it, cut it up, and then dehydrate it. And those, they're like the most delicious crackers, but you have to keep them, like I used to put them into a container and then put like kitchen towel on, paper towel on top to keep them cushioned because they're a bit delicate.
So if you do that in a jar or something, they might be okay.
And you know what? If they get crumbs, then you sprinkle them over your salad.
Yeah, that's a nice
Oh, they've got almonds in there too, so it makes a paste. But the sweet and salty nuts, all you do is spread some raw nuts, whatever nuts or seeds that you want, onto a tray in like a single layer. Sprinkle it with salt, drizzle it with a bit of honey, and roast it in the oven for like 15 minutes until they go brown and crispy, and then mix them together. And then when they dry, they're super crunchy and they're so good as a snack.
Because I find when you're traveling, you do, even if you try and eat balanced, you do end up snacking. Just being like,
and you want a bit of a sweet thing now and then.
Especially if you're going on, like, say, a big hike.
I was going to say,
need something to take with you.
You need some energy.
Yeah, definitely like any kind of like granola bars.
Sorry,
that's good. Yeah.
Dates. We always have medjool dates filled with peanut butter.
Ooh.
That's like a go-to snack for, like, you just take it in. So you've got your little jar of nut butter and your medjool dates in a bag, and that's and sprinkle it with salt.
I mean, if you're not in a hot place, using your little butter to put inside your medjool date as well. Oh.
Yum. She keeps talking about this and I keep meaning to try it. It sounds very good.
It'll be on the blog next week.
That's right. And then apples, if you have apples with you with your little jar of nut butter, you can
definitely.
And if you do have a way to cut it, you can have your apple slices with your nut butter.
I'm going to buy some nut butter actually to take with me.
Just make it while you're here.
Oh yeah.
We've suddenly got heaps of stuff you've got to make now. You've got one day left.
Yeah, one day. I'll be there like after the falls tomorrow. Be like, what can I make to take with me?
We can just go scrounge, see what's in my freezer. I know I've got, let's see, I've got some slice. There's the macadamia lemon bars. Could freeze some of that for you. And we have some chocolate that's got roasted pistachios, almonds, and freeze-dried fruit and flowers in it. She's happy about that one.
Just so many wonderful snacks here. Might just stay here permanently.
Oh well, we'll be quite happy to keep you.
Have you got any other suggestions?
I think that's my list there. You know, we haven't been traveling much since COVID. We've kind of been stuck at home.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to happen again, and we will be prepared.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I suppose, and as time goes on, you learn, I need that from home.
Yeah.
And you just, you make things along until like you're at the end and you've got a full bag of things that you need to take with you.
But you learn to consolidate into
and find what's important.
Into small packs, don't you?
Yeah. Have you got any other questions?
Oh yes, let me have a look. So if you're traveling away from cities, I would definitely be going into supermarkets rather than truck stops, because you're more likely to find something you can eat in a supermarket, even if it's just some basic veggies, fruit, a piece of meat, or just some really basic kind of things like we've been talking about.
I mean, even if you can find a butcher that can do you a slab of something, just a little handful, and then you can do that, say, for one night.
That's right.
I mean, I've been going to, sometimes if nowhere's been open, the supermarket, and they've got the little deli counters.
Yeah.
And just picking up like a slice of roast beef or some chicken.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not the healthiest, but
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's a bit of protein.
Yeah.
And even like the little the olive salads with cucumber and feta in it. It's just nice to put together like a deconstructed salad.
Yeah.
When you're on the go and you just need something just quick.
Yeah, something light. Yeah. If you're not near shops, then you go towards the camping food sort of things, and that's what I was going to talk about. If you have a dehydrator,
I was going to say dehydrator.
If you don't have a dehydrator and you go camping a lot, you need a dehydrator. We used to go camping a lot. My husband still goes camping a fair bit and bushwalking and all of that, and he used to take he used to take himself off for a few days at a time. And so I would make the dehydrated meals. So we'd just do stews, bolognese, all of that kind of thing, and just dry it in the dehydrator. And then he would take it in little jars usually, and then just add a bit of water in his little pot over his metho stove. And he was there practicing it with it the other day, wasn't he? He was like, she's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just seeing how long this metho stove burns for.
Yeah, there's a stove over there.
Yeah. Sometimes I think he doesn't cook on my stove. He only cooks on his metho stove. But yeah, just having some dehydrated meals makes it really easy. And if it's your homemade ones, it's heaps cheaper than buying dehydrated meals. And the dehydrated meals that you buy generally have preservatives and all of that in them. And they're so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anne says that she travels around doing house sitting, so she has to travel light. She's gluten-free, dairy-free, and finds it really hard. That would be, just buying the really basic stuff. It's kind of like Airbnb, because half the time people don't have like a cast iron pan, they have a Teflon pan, or, that's what I was going to say. What do you do when you have to cook in the
hostels?
Yeah.
Generally, because obviously a lot of backpackers use pasta, there will be like, I don't know,
a pot?
Yeah, like pasta boiling pots. And generally I'll use those, and I'll like fry my steaks in there, and
so you don't have to use the Teflon.
Yeah, because a lot of like the Teflon pans are like super scratched, and you don't want to be cooking stuff in there. I try and stay clear, and if I can't do that, I've not had any issues so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, and even then I've been cooking in like some tiny pans just to.
Because one thing I've done before when we've been like going to have a barbecue at the lake or something, and the barbecues sometimes are a bit grungy, take some baking paper and actually put that on the barbecue plate and cook on the baking paper.
Okay, I suppose that helps cleaning up as well.
Yeah, it does, yeah. And at least then it's not sitting on who knows what.
Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh.
I suppose you can do stuff again with the baking paper, like grilling sausages as well.
Yeah,
like
that's right.
Grill.
Yeah. I usually put sausages, if you've got access to an oven, I usually just bake them. It keeps less mess. Yeah, so for camping, just the things that don't take up, that don't need to be refrigerated. So we always took things like carrots, pumpkin, potatoes, onions, tinned beans, even if you can get a good quality tinned stew, that's sometimes handy. But I usually would take just the frozen meat, either already with the sauce in it, frozen in a esky, or I would put it in, like just have plain steak, chops, that kind of thing, and then bring heaps of veggies. And
find a market to pick up, even if you're there for like 1 or 2 days, just picking up, 1 or 2 of each veggie.
And maybe you're going fishing, and then you might catch a fish.
Yeah, no,
that would be good.
Like I had freshly caught fish, and it was barbecued like on the boat. They like skinned fish on the boat, and we had freshly caught fish, and it didn't even taste like supermarket fish.
No, totally different.
And we had fish pizzas with it later on. And it tasted
fish
kind of
pizza.
like, people have been dissing my fish pizza, and I was like, believe me when you try it.
What else was on it?
What did we do? It's like passata, onions, spinach, cheese, and then I did like kind of a Moroccan mix on the fish.
Nice.
And then cooked it up. I can't remember what else was on it, but it was so good.
Yum.
I was like, I would have had 2 of those.
Well, I have Moroccan spice.
Yeah. And it just literally doesn't taste like the kind of fish.
If it tastes fishy, then it's not fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think you said that when they barbecued the fish, all it was fish with lemon. No salt, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just,
no, we did have some lemon, but
you had just fish with lemon.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an experience of a day. It was the worst day that I've ever eaten.
The worst day I've ever eaten.
Yeah, literally. Like, can't remember. I hadn't got any of my supplies with me. I think I had some granola. I didn't have a yogurt, so I think I bought one, and that was all I had all day, and a few nuts. And then
because it was in a little outback town or something, and there was
there was literally nothing apart from a servo. And I was like, oh, what am I going to eat? And there was like a bakery with all of these pies. I was like, I don't want that. And I think, you know, it came 5 o'clock and I was so starving that they cracked out the Doritos and I was like,
Doritos will do.
Yeah. And then we just ate plain fish. I got back to the place we were staying at and I had a carrot. And that was the one veggie that I ate all day. And I was like, oh no, I hope this isn't going to be like the start and rest of my trip. I need my veggies.
Yeah.
Carrots are always a saviour.
It's good having carrots on hand. If all else fails, you've got a carrot. Yeah. And for me, it's usually a banana. That's one thing I always took when I was travelling. Always had a banana and some macadamia nuts because then I found that was like a meal, the two together.
Yeah. I always try and have some nuts on hand to have with something sort of sweet as well.
Yeah. Cut the sugar rush a bit.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing. That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lots of good ideas. Jo. So if you guys have any suggestions to share with us,
what your travel tips are,
we would love to hear them. You can always put them onto my social media posts in the comments where I've shared the podcast, because there'll be a lot of people looking through those comments for ideas. So if you have some good ideas, please share. We're always open to new ideas. All right. Happy holidays coming up, and if you're travelling, happy travelling.
Yeah.
And happy travelling to you.
Thank you, Jo.
Off to Daintree, and where else are you off to next?
Whitsundays and Fraser Island.
Oh my goodness.
So hopefully they have some good meals on the boats.
I hope so.
Yeah. I always specify that I'm gluten free, but generally they then just give you like sauce free meals and dairy free meals. So it's a catch-22, like what you say.
See, that's why you gotta have butter.
Yeah.
Just give me the butter. All right. Thanks so much, Tori.
See you again, guys.
Bye.